Hello. Make sure this camera's set up properly. That's good. Um, Good morning. It's not really morning anymore, but it still looks and feels like morning, even though I've been up already for like 4 hours. Um, I never know what to say. Like, I need some kind of introduction or something. It's always kind of awkward just to jump right into the code. Uh, but that's what we're gonna do. So let's switch over to code. So what's the agenda today? Today we're touching up some stencil buffer examples. So the first one that I want to work on is this outlines. And my plan is to bring in an audio file or like an audio source and modulate this outline based on the frequency data of the audio file. So I do have a file that we can work with. All the way out here in the public folder, the stadiumrave.ogg. I don't know why, they always add these weird BS store things. So that's the audio file that we'll be working with. But we need to get it loaded into the application as the first thing. So let me see if I recall how to do this. I was playing around with it last night. But the first thing that you need is a way to load the audio. So I think we can actually import it from here. Audio loader. And then you got to make a instance of one of these loaders. So I already have a loader up here, which now we have 2 loaders, so it makes sense to give this a less generic name. And because it loads HDR files, I'll just call it HDR loader. And then down here, we'll make one of these audio loaders. And then you can load audio with it. So audio loader load. There's 2 of these. There's one for loading it with a callback. So you can see there it's got like an on progress event, on error, and on load. Or you can load it asynchronously and you can do things with promises, or you can await this. So I'm going to use a promise-based approach, and the file is located at the public directory. So anything in public does not get transformed at all by once you like build your application and build the website. Everything in public, as far as I know, is left untouched. But you can use absolute paths to get files from there. So this is under audio, and then it's called Stadium Rave A, and it's a .ogg file. And then this will return a promise with an audio buffer. So this buffer is the actual audio data. It doesn't have any kind of like methods attached to it, like playing or pausing or seeking the audio or anything. It's just, as far as I know, as far as I understand it, it's just raw data. But the way that you like use it is that you create an audio instance that also comes from 3JS. And once this is done loading, you'll get out the buffer here. And then you can set the audio's buffer to that. And we might have let's see. One argument. What's the argument? A listener. So you need to make a listener as well. So that's a separate class. So a listener is what you're actually going to put into the scene. Um, and I know it comes from 3JS. So with 3JS, you can make these listeners and you can attach them to certain meshes. And you can do like positional audio and stuff like that. But because the scene is always rendered through the camera, you can just attach the listener to the camera. Oh, it's not used here, it's used down below. Okay, so this listener, oh, we need a new. There, now we have the audio. And we don't need to do anything with this promise. But you can actually use top level await in svelte components these days. So I think what I want to do instead is await this. And set the audio buffer like that. This will wait, you know, until that data is loaded, but you shouldn't be able to use the app. Well, when we make the controls and stuff for playing the audio, I might come back to this and do things a little bit more, like do things in .then callbacks and stuff. What else? So audio will not play without the user like agreeing to it. That's why, you know, if you load up a YouTube video or something, but you switch over to a different tab, the YouTube video will pause until you hit play. So let's set some controls on this. If it's under set, yeah, we want to set the loop to true. Volume, I'm not going to worry about yet. It should be paused by default, I'm pretty sure. So you have to control it with .play and .pause, but I believe it starts out paused. And has a is playing boolean as well. That'll be nice when we need to get the frequency data in the render loop. Yeah, this autoplay, let's see if that has a default. Yeah, see, this documentation should have, you know, what the default is. Maybe I'll make a PR for that or something, if I remember. Yeah, so we want to loop when the audio is finished. It should just, you know, loop or repeat. The song is pretty short. It's like 2 minutes. I think I can actually load it in Firefox, or not Firefox, but in the browser. So that's under public and audio. And if we do open this, it should just load, and oh, it loads on the other monitor. So it should open like perfectly fine in the application on that we're working on. Oops, that got rid of the music. Hold on. That's the problem. I need like a separate oh, why can't I drag this? Hold on. Put that over here. Let's get the music back. Okay. So we have the buffer on the audio. Now we need to have some controls. So when we start playing this audio, I'll turn off the music so that we can hear it. But this pane here is where we're going to put our controls, right here where it says visible. This is just a toggle for the outline. But I want to add a folder in here that has some controls for controlling the audio. Dang it. Where do I put this? There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, so down below, so I refactored this a little bit off stream, but now this pane is an attachment, which takes the pane configuration. It omits this container parameter because in a svelte attachment, the first argument here is the element that you're attaching to, and that should be what we want to attach the pane to. So you're going to pass that in through the constructor here. Could leave this off, but I think it is a little bit, makes more sense that you don't get to define the container. Whatever you're attaching to is the container. And then the second argument here is this init function. So once that pane is created, how do you want to initialize it? And that's optional because you can just create the pane without any controls inside of it. And then at the end, when this component unmounts, we'll just dispose of the pane. So that should get rid of any controls and event listeners and all that stuff. So the second argument here is the function, the init function. So we've already got our visible checkbox. Let's make a folder for audio. So we'll give it title of audio, and that will return a reference to the folder. Let's call it audio folder. And with that audio folder, we'll add a button, title, play. So this will be our play button. And then when it changes, or let's see. Yeah, when you click that button, a callback here that will play the audio. So audio.play. That should show up, yeah, right here. I'm not gonna click it yet, but we have our audio folder. And then I want to provide a way to pause the audio. So this will be pretty much the same, but we're gonna pause it. And then these actually return a reference to that, I believe if you have this is, yeah, the button. So you can actually disable, what is it? Because what I want to do is, when it's paused, I want to disable the pause button because you shouldn't be able to pause if you're already paused. And likewise with play, if you're already playing, then you can't hit the play button again. This is pause. This is play. So when we click play, we're going to set play, disabled is true, and then pause dot disabled is not play dot disabled. So that means that the pause button should be disabled in the beginning because we're not playing, and that we can get from audio.isPlaying. And down here, when we pause it, we'll say pause or play. When we'll say pause dot disabled is equal to false, or wait, what is this? So when we pause it, we want to be able to play it. So play.disabled is false, and then pause.disabled is play.disabled, but we need to invert that. Okay, let's see if this works. So it won't play any audio in the beginning because it's not tied up here. But if we hit play, yeah, we can pause, and if we hit pause, we can play. And the pause button, where is that? Is audio playing? This I'm just gonna set false, because in the beginning, if it's not playing, let's see. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Now we need to link it up with the audio, so... Oh, which, yeah, I already have this right here. So let me pause the background music. Let me see if we can hear audio coming from here. See if it had any problems loading it. Because I don't hear anything. So maybe it's not properly attached to the scene. I'll pull up the audio listener docs. Okay, I remember to set the buffer. Yeah, set the buffer. Oh, add, not attach. Okay, let's see if that does it. It might be because I don't have any... Oh, it is playing. It's just very quiet. And we bump up the... Yeah, maybe you can hear that now. But, okay, so we have it playing. Let's see if it pauses. And it pauses. And it picks up back from where it was last playing. That's nice. Let me turn this down a little bit. Okay, hopefully that's good. So we have it playing, and it's attached to the camera, so anywhere the camera is, no matter what, we're always going to hear it. So it's just kind of like global audio. But what we need to do now is get the frequency data in our loop down here. So in order to do that, let's do it here. We need to make an audio analyzer first. And just in case, like the loader thing, I'm gonna pause it. Like the loader thing from previously, just in case there's other kinds of analyzers in the future. I'm just gonna call it, instead of analyzer, just audio analyzer. That's a new audio analyzer. And what does it need? I think it needs, okay, we'll pass it in our audio. What's, what are we analyzing? And then this FFT, that's your fast Fourier transform. So in their example here, they use a value of 32 right here. So I guess if you have a bigger FFT size, your accuracy is a little bit higher. Like you're sacrificing like your average, I don't know how it would work, but my thought is that if it's a larger buffer, or it's a larger FFT size or something, you're getting more accurate frequency information when you go to like average it out and all that. Um, so I might play with this value at the end, but I'm going to also do 32. So now got the analyzer here. And now it's like, it's already ready to go. Like you can just get average frequency on it right here in your loop. So let's do that. But I only want to do that if the audio is playing. If it's playing, average, let's see, that's the analyzer, audio analyzer, get average frequency. And this is based on like wherever it is in the track. So as time progresses, you're deeper in the track, you can get the average frequency at that moment in time. So if we log this out, take a look at the console down here, we should see values that range from 0 to 255, because what this will return, well, internally, it gets this frequency data and then it averages it out. If you look at the source code, so this is the types declaration file, not the actual source code, but if you were to look into the source code, this is just running an average of this frequency data. And this is a uint8 array, so a uint8 is a byte. And it's unsigned, so it's from 0 to 255. So when we hit play here, that's the range that we expect to see. And you probably won't see like zeros or 255s, because that would be on the very low end. Like you have really low frequencies, or you have very high frequencies. So maybe something towards the center is what I'm expecting. Yeah, it's anywhere from like maybe 50 to 120. It's really fast. You can't really see it too much, but that is what I would expect. So let's normalize this. That way we get a value between 0 and 1. And because we're going to use it to scale this outline, it'll be really easy from 0 to 1 to map it to a range from like, scale of 1 to scale of 2 or something. So let me pull up Excalibur to show you that. Dark. So in the average frequency, it ranges from 0 to 255. If you want to map that between 0 to 1, so it's normalized, we're already at 0, so we know that if we divide by 255 on both ends, we'll get a value from 0 to 1. And now this range is very easy to manipulate. So if you want to scale it, let's say by s, then you just multiply by s. 0 times s is 0, and then your high end would be just 0 to s. But if we want to map it, because your scale, you want to always start at 1, because it's a multiplier. You don't want it to be 0, because then you won't have any scale and it'll be shrunk down to nothing. So what we can do then is, multiply it by, we're going to add 1 in the end. That way we shift it to where it starts at 1. But before we shift it, we want to scale it. So let's just try scaling it by 2. That way at the highest frequency average, the scale is going to be equal to 2. So if we multiply by 2, we're going to get 0 on the left side and 2 on the right side. And then if we add 1, I can already see that we're going to get 1 to 3. So in that case, when we add 1 here, we want this value to be 1. So we can just add 1. We don't have to do this multiplier step. Instead, we'll just skip that part. Actually, we'll just say it's 1 because I'm gonna play with this in a moment. But this will be our like how wide do we want to scale to, and then that'll give us let's put that in a variable times s. So this will be 0 to s. Oops. And then we're gonna add 1. That'll be 1 to s plus 1. But if s is equal to 0 or s is equal to 1, then it's just, multiply. We're going to get 0 to 1, and then we're going to add 1. We're going to get 1 to 2. That's what we're going to do here. So we'll take the average, and we'll multiply it by 1. And then average just needs to be a let, so we can reassign to it. Average, we're going to add 1. And then what we're going to do is take the outline, take its scale, and then we'll set its scalar to the average. So set scalar will, this scale here is a vector 3. And then we're going to set scale to the average. But I forgot to divide it by 255. So that gets it to 0 to 1. This will go from 0 to s. Let's call this s. And then this will bring it from 1 to 1 plus s. So it should be wired up now. Let's clear this. I'm going to pull the camera back because I have a feeling that the outline will be a little bit too big. Let me pull the camera back just a tad. Yeah, let's play it. Yeah. So it starts out at 0, probably because there's no frequency information. But it should be following the frequency data now. It's a little bit too much. You can see it's a little bit too much in an outline. Hold on. So in order to do that, you would just modify the s value. Let's say like 0.5. See what that does. And reload the audio. The audio looks pretty good. So in this case, it's going from 0 to 0.5, and then from 1 to 1.5, because s is 0.5. You shrink it down even just a little bit more. Yeah, you can kind of see like in the beginning where the like kick drum is going, you can kind of see that it's going like kicked with the kick drum. And if I pause it, yeah, just pause it like it's because it's not playing anymore in the loop here. It just, holds on to its last scalar value, or its last, average or whatever, rescaled. So I'm going to plug something here. If you're curious about the like remapping that we just did here, I have an article right here that kind of details the math behind it. And I even, like a few weeks ago, I even added this LaTeX syntax to it, which was kind of interesting. I don't like it. I don't recommend it, but it allows you to do this nice formatting, and hopefully it's all formatted and correct in terms of like, form. I was like, hopefully it's pretty formal. I don't know. Yeah, it's very easy. Like, I wonder if there's a verifier for this kind of stuff, to make sure that you didn't like miss a comma or, some symbol somewhere or something. Yeah, let me drop that in the chat here. Oh, dang it. It always does that. I don't want that. And just click and paste it like that. Yeah, so that's an article about how do you take values from one range and map them from two values of another, and it's a linear mapping. Um, that's actually pretty simple. And a lot of the time, you'll skip this step here, uh, because a lot of the time when you divide out, when you have like these values that are unsigned, it ranges from 0 to something. You can skip this like third step, I think it is, about shifting to the origin. But yeah, it's in the article. It talks about that, I believe. Okay, let's play it. I want to see if it actually loops, but what are we going to do for 2 minutes? We'll just admire it, I guess. If you set it to visible, it should hide itself. Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes it's a little finicky. Like it's not processing my clicks. I wonder if anybody can identify the song. It's a pretty, I think a lot of people will be able to tell what the song is from. If you can hear it, it might be a little too quiet. So that's wired up. Oh, let's see if we can do anything with this await here. So we have this in a promise. I want to do all this and then just run the callback when this promise is fulfilled. Because I'm not sure if you were to, like, if you had a really big audio file or something, right? And it took a very long time to load it. Maybe my UI is ready to go, but the audio file isn't loaded. What happens when I hit play in that case? Probably can easily tell in the source code what happens. I know I could set this in an await block or a template. Yeah, there it goes. So it looped again. That's cool. Let me pause it. So we have it in a promise. And then all we need to do is to set the buffer, but I'm kind of wondering where I want to do this. Because it gets kind of tricky when you have to juggle promises. So, I mean, a 2-minute audio file isn't that big of a deal. It might be, an optimization not worth it or whatever. Let's go back to what it is. I might play around with that at a later time. Let's see what happens if we do 256 here. I don't think it'll change too much. I mean, it might be a little bit more granular or like, yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, we could set this to be a parameter up here, but I think once you set this FFT size, you cannot modify it. I don't know if you can modify this on the fly. It doesn't say that it's read-only. Let's take a look at the values it's giving out. Let's look at the And we'll call this scale. And we gotta reload. It's never gonna reach 1.5, but it's like it never seems to go above like 1.1 either. Okay, good enough. I'm gonna move this outside. Not sure what to call this. Let's call it S for now. Trying to think if there's anything missing. This loader we can put up here. Yeah, this analyzer too. Oh, maybe not. Oh, you know what I need to do is the same thing with this. So once this is deployed, it sits under a subdomain, not subdomain, a base URL, which is /graphics glossary here. So if you were trying to, like deploy this, it wouldn't work because it's gonna try to load from the root. So what you have to do instead is append the base URL. And in development, no, this is, yeah, I think this is fine because, well, no, it's not, because this HDR thing is coming from public as well. So without that base URL thingy here, it will try to load it from slash, but you want to load it from graphics glossary slash and then the path. So let's move that into a variable at the top here. Because that should not change. I mean, if we were to make this, like library code or whatever, you could pass in the audio file as a prop to the component. That would make sense. But I'm not going to worry about that. See, this is interesting here. It returns, it could be undefined, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if that can fail, like setting the loop can fail. I'm not sure who put this in here. Return audio or undefined. So we can't just chain them together like that. Let me check something here on the other monitor real quick. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, so I think I'm done with this one. I knew this one would be a little short. Let me look at my cheat sheet. Make sure that I didn't miss anything. So, yeah, I did this last night. I knew it was going to be pretty quick, but I have a second thing that I want to work on while on stream, which I haven't prepared. So if we put these side by side, oops, yeah, want to do a vertical split. And we got our listener down here. Audio, yeah, we added it to the camera. That looks fine. All that's good, good. Yeah, I think we're good. Let me get rid of this. Now, let's pull up. Let's put this on this side. Now let's jump over to this other stencil buffer example here. And this is actually on a page already, so what I'm gonna do is load it in that playground. So this is that slash playground, and it gets rid of the sidebar and all that, so it's a little bit easier to see. But that is at playground.astro, and here we want to use mask. So that should load the mask example. There it is. So there's no problem with this example, but you can see that it would be a little bit more interesting if what is shown in the mask is like a whole separate scene with its own like environment and lighting and stuff like that. But right now it just kind of takes the lighting and background information from the main scene, if you will. I think it would be a little bit more informative and interesting and all that if it had its own scene. And this kind of will create like a portal effect where whatever is in this mask or whatever looks like it's a portal into a different environment. So in order to do that, you have to create a separate render target. So what you would do, oops, make this big. Let's clear the canvas. Where's, yeah, right here. So you have your mask, and it's already written ones into the stencil buffer and everywhere where it touched a pixel. And then what you would do is you would have like a screen quad geometry guy or screen quad mesh, which is like this. And it will draw some scene into this render target. So this is kind of like a render target, but it actually is something that you've rendered into like a texture. So you would create your scene like normal with all your meshes and your environment data and all this, and materials and all this. You would render into that render target, and you would use that texture as the map for some quad mesh. This is going to be a quad mesh. And it's set up in such a way that when it renders through a private camera in such a way that this is your screen here. And the map, this render target texture, is applied across the whole mesh. So it's going to use that map like this. But what you'll see is when through the camera and all that, you're only going to see this part of it. And use that as a map for some, yeah, this will get overlaid. Here. Or it'll actually be a little bit smaller. Can I reselect that? Or let's see. The thing that will be smaller is the mask. Let me think about this. Because what you want to do is only draw that where the stencil buffer is 1. And using that map on like a plane geometry, a quad mesh, and it's only going to render where the stencil buffer is 1. So you'll only see that scene being used as a map wherever the stencil buffer is 1. And it'll look like it's through that mask, it'll look like a separate scene. So that's a little bit complicated, but that's what I want to try to work on. And I've got examples that show how to use a render target already. And we already have, the mask and stuff set up here. So if you look at, is it miscellaneous? Yeah, render targets. This example here uses a render target, so you can see that if we look at the source code, it'll be a little bit more informative. In the render loop, it sets the render target here. This render target is created here. And it's something that you can render onto. So we set that render target, and then we render through, the normal scene through the camera. We hide the, before we do all that, we hide this actual box mesh, or this plane mesh, yada, yada, yada. Restore, after we get done rendering to that target, we're going to render the entire scene again, but now we're going to turn that mesh to visible. And you can see that this mesh, if you look at its material here, it uses that render target texture as the map. So whenever that target is rendered to, we use whatever texture it currently has as the material for this mesh, this plane mesh here. So that's kind of the same idea. In fact, I'll probably steal a lot of code from here. While I see it, I'm going to move this up here. HDR URL. That way it's just like the other examples. Okay, let's go back to the mask. Oops, mask. So the first thing we need is a render target, and let's pull up that example. And this is disposable, so we'll pass it through the create disposed function. Render target. That needs to be brought in. And what parameters does this take? The width and the height. So I'm going to pass 1, 1 here because I want it to at least have, width and height. I don't want to set them to 0 because I think that it could cause some trouble, but I'm not sure what kind of trouble. But we're going to size this render target to be the same size. Well, I'm going to set this to a static value in the beginning. And we might modify the size. No, let's do it like this. In the loop down here where we checked if we resized the main renderer, if we did resize, then I want to set the, we're going to get the size out from renderer.getSize. This takes a target, so where do you want to put that? We'll put it in size. Haven't created that yet. We'll put it in size, and then the render target has this set size property or method, and you can pass in the width and the height. Like that, I suppose. Do I use this anywhere else? You can go back to that render target example. Yeah, right here, width and height. So this vector 2 has X and Y, but the width and height are actually aliases for X and Y. So it should be like a getter for width, it just returns X. A getter for Y just returns Y. So I'm gonna steal this. Get rid of all this. In our buffer list, don't need that. Put it here. This is render target. And we need to make a size variable to put this in. So that'll be renderer size, new vector2. That will get from render target dot width. I wonder if we can just copy this. Is it a vector2 or not? I guess it's not. But we always set the size before we set the renderer size. So this will always get set, even though this defaults to 0, 0. We'll set that size first, and then we'll set the render target size based on that. So it should never be 0, 0 unless, like, for some reason the renderer itself had a size of 0, 0. So this is renderer size, and same thing here. Like that. So now the render target, it's not being used, but its size is being set properly. And the mesh, the knot here, the material, I want to set its map to be render target.texture. Get rid of the color for now. Okay. So in our loop here, what we need to do is render like a second scene. So let's make a second scene. We'll call this portal scene, new scene. And what we need to do is add the mesh to that scene. So here we're adding the knot to the main scene. Instead, we want to add that to the portal scene. And now we shouldn't see the knot at all. And the portal scene, I want to give it a environment as well. Let me see. I need to have like 2 HDRs. Let me see if I have that. Yeah, I have the workshop and just equal rect here. Where did I get that workshop HDR? I think I got it from Polyhaven or something. What I want to do is load 2 HDRs with like one that's like very bright, I guess, and one that isn't as bright, or it's easy to tell that they have different like lighting environments and stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna open up on the other monitor. Polyhaven HDRs. 1 second here. So that workshop scene is an indoor HDR. And that's the one that's getting loaded in this render target example. I could use night. There's nighttime HDRs. I like this one. And yeah, we want 1K HDR. Download that. I'm going to move it into our project. Projects, graphics glossary, public, HDRs. Put it here. Okay, let's see if that shows up. How do I do? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I have two maps for browsing the directory. If I do, I'll put the music back on because we're done with the audio. Okay, let me know if that audio is a little too loud or not. Yeah, so two maps. I can do EF, will bring me to wherever this file is in the directory, or I can do ED, and that will bring me to the root of the project. But at root we have public, HDRs. Same thing here. It made .ds store. I need to add that to, if it's not already, just git ignore. Okay, yeah, right here. Yeah. So in this public folder now we have two HDRs. We got Cobblestone and we got University. So let's load them both. But in order to do that, we need an HDR loader. And this lives. Let's call this portal. I don't know, portal HDR. And then we'll say main HDR, and this is that file that we just made. And let's fix things that are broken. Will we load it here? What should call this? Main HDR. This will be the main environment. We should call this path or URL. Because it's the string, not the actual HDR itself. Down here we can say main HDR. It's URL. And then make sure that this is correct. And then this is. Okay, it didn't load it. Let's see if there's a error down here. Is seen, okay. What's that about? Oh, it couldn't load that cobblestone thing. Street night, 1K. I guess we don't provide the HDR extension. I don't know what that's about. Can you load this? No. Why not? Oh, is that because it's in HDRs? Yeah. Okay, what's the path for this? Oh, it is. Okay, so you do need the extension. So it needs the extension and it needs the folder that it's in. Like that. There we go. Yeah, this HDR here, it's a little fuzzy. Pretty fuzzy. Oh well. Stand up straight. Or sit down straight. Okay, so we're loading just that one. We also need to load the other one. Because we only have 2 of these, I'm just going to do them back to back. I'm not going to do them in a loop. Portal, actually this is going to be pretty much the same, but take main and replace it with portal. Okay, and then we need to make sure that that also gets disposed. Okay, down here. Let me think how to do this. I don't think we need to use that quad mesh actually. Because what we'll do, we have the torus mesh in the scene, but because these scenes are drawn different, like, you know, one after the other, I need to make sure that stencil buffer is set, and then I render the second scene. Okay, so we're gonna render the main scene, and then we'll render the portal scene. Is that what I called it? Yeah. What's the deal? Oh, renderer. I always do that. Okay, something broke. Oh, yeah, so this needs to be... I need to set the render target here. Oh, okay, I see how this is all kind of coming together. So set the render target to this. And we're gonna render the portal scene, yeah, with this quad mesh. So hold on, think about this. relaxed. So what we need to do is create that quad mesh. This is actually a class that we can bring in. And then let's add it to the main scene. We can call it main scene, but we'll do Can I set the material of this? Yeah, okay. So this is what will have the material properties. The mask material properties here. Mask material parameters, and then after that it needs the map. Oh no, this is the not material. Yeah, so this needs to actually be what we pass through. Alright, clean this up. What? It's got a map though. Oh, I need to pass in all this standard. Oh, this needs to be basic material. Mesh basic. Alright, let's move that into its own variable so we can properly clean it up. Suppose. Okay, now we have the quad. I'm gonna add the quad to the main scene. That. Does not. Look how many errors there are. This not material here does not need to be anything special. It's mesh standard. Maybe we'll just give it a color. Oops. The knot we add to the portal scene. Portal scene is down here. Oh yeah, we already did that. So we'll get the render target. That is going to be the render target. We're going to render the portal scene to the render target. But I want to use... Okay, how do I do this? So you can see that it's rendering the quad mesh, but the quad mesh doesn't have any lighting at the moment because the render target doesn't have anything in it, or the map isn't anything. If you turn off the map, right here, yeah, it becomes white. So likewise, if you give it a color like orange red, turn off the map, it should turn orange. Yeah. But what we'll do is we'll render the scene to... See, this is weird because quad mesh has a render function, doesn't it? Where's quad mesh? Did I call it quad? Yeah, right here. And you pass in the renderer. So down here, we don't need to render the scene, do we? This is tricky. Don't need to add the mesh to the scene, do we? I mean the quad to the scene. The quad will have the portal scene mapped onto it. So we can do renderer.render. I always sink into my chair. Renderer.render the portal scene through the camera. So that's getting rendered onto the render target. That's being applied as a map onto the quad. And now we can render the quad. Or I guess we can add it to the scene. But I want it to take up the whole space of this renderer size. So maybe we do quad.render renderer. Shouldn't be not material anymore. Where's the not material? This not material needs to go back to being yeah, let's fix this. So this is the quad material. Quad material is what gets the renderer, or the stencil stuff. Make sure this has a standard material. Well, even if it didn't, you should still see it. Oh. You need to do portal scene dot background. Yeah, okay. That's an important step there. Background does not exist. Oh, background. Now, if we try to render this, do we see anything? No. I was sure that was it. But is this being rendered? Let me see. Turn this off. Should see white. We don't. I don't see anything. What the heck? How do we render that quad? Am I using this wrong? Should be able to just use it. No. Might be because of this width and height. We don't need to do that. Okay, so let's step through this. First thing we do is we set the render target. Render the portal scene through our main camera onto that render target. And that render target as a map, as the texture, we're going to use as a map onto this quad mesh. So we should be able to just render out the quad. If we turn off the, what's this? Feedback loop formed between frame buffer and active texture. Oh, I suppose that's because we never set back to the last render target. See, I would expect to see it there. If I turn this off, that's what I'd expect to see. So something to do with the material properties? I mean the stencil stuff? Maybe we need to... Does it clear stencil buffer between scenes? Sometimes these buffers get cleared before they get drawn. Let me look at the dots. Trying to get myself in the center of the camera is difficult. Oh, I guess it's a renderer property. Auto clear stencil. Okay, there it is. So we need to set that, I think, because it's clearing the stencil here. It's renderer dot auto clear stencil. What's wrong here? Okay, tell me that did it. Oh, am I still using the materials and all that? The stencil stuff. Turn that on. There we go. But what happened to our what happened to the other stuff? I should see this thingy here. I mean this thing here. Where's the main scene? Oh, that's what we need to do, is render the main scene. Am I doing that? Where is it? Yeah, I'm rendering the main scene. That's what I'm not seeing. This is tricky. I mean, what I could do is draw the scene onto the render target and then draw all of that onto the quad. So we'll set the render target to the last render target there. We'll render the portal scene onto the camera, or sorry, onto the render target. Something like that. So it's rendering both onto the tricky part is we have two scenes, and I don't know if the renderer is clearing out the stencil buffer whenever it renders a scene, or whenever you call render. I would assume that it is. Why isn't this getting through? I mean, it is. It is there, so somehow rendering the quad is not letting the color through. Do I need to do... What does this take? Whether the renderer should automatically clear the current rendering target. Maybe it's clearing the color buffer? Okay, there we go. That was hard. That was hard to find out. Let's push this. I don't know, what should we do? Maybe push the torus knot backwards a little bit? Or maybe we can push the main camera. Let's play around with it now. Set this to 7. And to make this more obvious, I kind of want to find an HDR that has a little bit different colors. Like an outdoor scene or something. That should make it easier to... Oh, I like this one. Okay, 1 second. Let me move it over to where we're working. Where is it? Downloads. This is in here. Public. HDRs. Drop that in. Okay, so we'll set this to be, what's the name of this file? We'll keep doing that. AD. Okay. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we'll grab this. Dang it. Put it here. And then we'll make this cobblestone. And I want to move the mesh back a little bit, the knot. So we'll set its position. C position, we'll move it maybe like 2 units back or something. And this mask, circle geometry, mask, we'll scale it up a little bit. Two might be too much. Okay, look at that. That's pretty cool. So it's almost like a little portal into a different world almost. You know, maybe we put a border around this or something. Maybe even an outline. That's neat. I like that. What happens if we invert? Ooh, I don't know if that's right. I need to fix that. But I kind of like this. Let me just take out the invert. I don't have to worry about it. You know, the easiest way to refactor or whatever, or to like, you know, if you don't want to deal with things like this, you don't want to deal with refactoring or bugs and stuff, just remove it. You know? And that's a nice thing you can do when you work on your own projects. Now we don't need any of this. Yeah, that's neat. Okay, can I change this back to 1? Yes, I can. Well, you should see that this, the knot itself is getting its color from that cobblestone environment. I think I can change the... This is a PBR texture, or not texture, sorry, a material. So it's got things like roughness, and what else? I don't remember the others. Roughness, metalness, set that, what's that default to? 0. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more shiny. There we go. That's cool. Let's see. If we make it like 0 roughness and full metalness, I wonder if it's like glass. Yeah, that looks nice. And maybe I should explain all of this, just in case there's anybody that's like, what the heck? How did that happen? Oh, I'm kind of tired today. Even though I slept like 8 hours, 9 hours, I got some good sleep, but I don't know, I just feel tired. Alright, so the main idea, let's recap. The problem that we were trying to solve is when we were rendering the, like the masked geometry and stuff, though not, it was all in the same scene, and it was getting its lighting information from the main scene's environment. So to make a more interesting example, to create this like portal effect where, you know, this circular geometry or mesh looks like you're looking through a portal. Because you don't see this torus knot on the other side. Oh, that's weird too. Because I don't know if that should be possible, but you're kind of like behind the knot geometry. But anyway, definitely gonna play around with this. But anyway, in order to solve that problem, you're gonna create 2 scenes with their own environments and a quad mesh. And to link it all together, you create a render target that you will render. Hold on. How did I do this last time? There we go. It's a funny name though. Okay, so the first step is to set the render target to that render texture. What are we going to render to that render target? Or sorry. Set the render target to the render target that you created. That render target is going to be used as a texture for a quad mesh. The quad mesh is this very specific kind of mesh. Did you guys see that? Probably. That's okay. Quad mesh. If you take a look at this thing, It's got some funny geometry and it uses its own camera, but it's set up in such a way that it fills the entire screen. And it's drawn as a triangle because you can make a slight optimization by drawing it in this way. Here's your quad mesh. It's like this, but we're only going to draw this part to the screen. So what we do is we apply that render target texture as a map onto this mesh, and it'll be applied like this. And then once that's done, so you've rendered the main scene or the portal scene onto that render target, you use it as a map. Once you do that, you go back to the default render target. You're gonna render the main scene. The scene doesn't have that quad mesh inside of it. Instead, you're going to render that quad mesh separately. But before you render that guy, you've made sure that you've added in your mask into this scene. Right here. That sets the stencil buffer such that you can use it as a mask. And then when you render this quad, its material is set up to only draw fragments that pass the the stencil check. That comes from this that we made a couple streams ago. Comes from this create mask function. But you need to make sure that it seems like when you call this render function, it clears out all the data buffers, like your depth buffer and your color buffer and your stencil buffer. So calling quad.render internally calls renderer.render. Here's the function call down here. This clears all those buffers, but you can prevent that like this. And what I tend to do is get the last value like this. That way it's restored. If it was false before, probably just want to leave it untouched. You want to put it back to the way that it was. It may have been true, but it may also have been false. So you just grab the last value and set it back. Might be even better to call this previous. And this one. I don't know if I really like abbreviations. I always think that what if I wasn't what if English wasn't my first language, right? What is PREV? What does that mean? But if you call it previous, then you probably know the word previous. And this would be automatic clear, But I think auto is pretty self-explanatory. What else could auto mean? I mean, what else could PREV mean? Preve. This would be called quadrilateral or something. HDR would be, I don't remember what this stands for. High definition. Something. Anyway, I kind of want to test out, what if you put the quad in the theme? Like that. We don't do V's. Let's go back to... Yeah, don't see it at all. Oops. So because of this, I don't think we need to set the render order anymore. You know, if you were trying to mask out things that are also in the main scene, but yeah, I mean, we probably should leave the mask render order like this. If you didn't have anything in the main scene that you wanted to mask out, you could probably leave this off. But you always want to draw that mask first, because that's what sets the stencil values for everybody else to read from when you're masking things out. So I think to really like sell this and call it complete, probably should create some kind of like ring geometry around this portal mesh thing. And I'd like to do that with a what do you call it? With some TSL, but I'll have to look into it. Like the really dumb easy way would just to be create a second mesh and then just, you know, make sure it's aligned with that, you know, with this outer radius, and then give it some more radius and then draw that. I might just show that off real quick, see if I can get that done in 15 minutes or so. Yeah, this will be the ring geometry. Now, what does this take? Oh, we need to bring it in. Inner radius and outer radius. So the circle itself has been scaled by 2. It has a radius of 1. So scaling it scales it on both sides. So its new radius, or sorry, it has a diameter of 1, I believe. I don't know, I can play with this in a moment. We'll do this in 2.5. Ring material, we're just gonna make it white. This needs to be a mesh basic material. So it's white by default. And we'll make our ring. Give it the ring geometry and the ring material. And we need to add that into the main scene. And then, yeah, that looks nice. It's a little bit too thick though, so let's do like 2.1 probably. That kind of separates it a little bit. But this and the scale right here should be the same value. So we'll call that mask scale. That way they're in line or they're in sync. Mask scale plus 0.1. Easiest way to do it. And these I'm going to move into here because they are constants. That mask scale is a constant. Stencil raft, that's a constant. I don't have caps lock. I have to, I don't know, it's fast enough just to retype it, but I could also use that G uppercase word thing, but then I have to go and, you know, if I do a rename, I don't think I can do it. I mean, I could do this, a little bit convoluted, but, you know, save that into your register and then paste it into the command line. Okay, what else? Yeah, it's not rotation, that is constant. That up here. That's it, isn't it? What else? This looks like a cool example. I think this might be the coolest one. I did have a cool example of post-processing and using it like a dithering pattern that I took off the website. Because like TSL is still like a work in progress, and if you use it, you have to be aware that, you know, things could break. So something broke because it used TSL and they updated the API or whatever. So I just deleted it. I deleted that example because I don't know, it felt like it could be refactored or redone at a later date or cleaned up. Should have just made it a draft, but at the time I don't think I had a, well, no I did, but I don't think I was thinking about making it a draft entry. So in these markdown files, there's a front matter, and when it's, well, this isn't actually markdown, this is an Astro file, but when you set it as draft, that's why you see this. We go back to playground. Oh, this whole time I've been working in the actual page. In the playground, you can see this little, what do you call this? Warning, like, note thingy, block quote or whatever. Is this rendered as a block quote? No. And then the same thing with markdown files. Like if I set this to is draft through, now it won't go out to production, right? I don't know, something like that. What I should have done is that example with the post-processing, I should have just done that. That way I could like work on it in development, but it wouldn't be out there in the wild that people were like, why doesn't this example work? Why does he have a page and the page is broken or something? We don't need any of that. Oh, buffers. That's good. Oh, this is better target. So I'm trying to think what I want to get for lunch. It's about lunchtime now. I had McDonald's for breakfast because I have the app and they always have a good deal where you can get 2 breakfast sandwiches for, you know, buy one get one free. And it's a 1-week offer, so usually on either Tuesday or Thursday, my days off, it seems, that's where I'll go. Taco Bell, yeah. It's cheap. There's slim chickens. There's some chicken tenders. Oh, I know, I could go to me and my uncle, he came and visited me this weekend. Or not this weekend. Well, he was here for other reasons, but we went to this pizza place. And I thought it was only pizza, but it was actually just like an Italian restaurant. And I got a calzone and it was really good. So I might go get that. But I wonder if they have any lunch specials. That'd be worth looking into. You know, I don't want to spend too much money, but I eat out every day. I'm just so lazy. Even though I work at a grocery store, I still don't buy very many groceries. I need to get in the habit of eating at home and save a lot of money. already spent a lot of money this morning because I bought, I don't know if you can tell, but my apartment is pretty, it's all like right here, and there's like nothing in it. It's just a bunch of open space. Um, and whenever I have like family visit, they don't have anywhere to sit. So this morning I bought a couch, and um, just got it off Amazon. But it's like a sectional couch. It's the kind that's modular, and you can take parts of it and rearrange it or whatever. So behind me, in a week or two, will be a couch, and then the other part of it, it's like a four-piece set or something. The other part of it I'm gonna put over here, where you can't see it, but that way if people come and visit, they can stay and they can sit down, and rather than having to like go out and do stuff, or sit on the floor or something, they can sit on the couch. So I was like, I don't know, I spent that much money this morning, I don't know if I want to spend any more, but the only thing I got in the fridge is like cheese and butter, and in the freezer I have some tater tots. That'll probably be for dinner. But yeah. Today's Tuesday. I don't know. Might just go. Like, I live really close to all those fast food restaurants. Could do Arby's. I might just walk over there and see what looks good. So, yeah, let's call it here. I'll show you the two things that we accomplished today. Dang, I keep doing that. Go over to this playground. There's outlines, I think. Then if we go to playground, so we made it so that play this, it will modulate. The outline here modulates now with a based on the audio file here. The audio file is just something that's on the website that we can load. And it's pretty quiet. You might have to turn up your speakers or your headphones, but it's following along with the frequency data of that audio track. And then the other example that we made or fixed, this one I'm actually happy about. This one's cool and all, but this one is, I think, the winner today. Is this portal example that utilizes quad mesh, render target, enabling and disabling, clearing the buffers, stencil buffer stuff. This has a lot of stuff coming together to make this example. So pretty cool. So I think if I'm going to stream on Thursday, I don't have anything planned. I don't know what I'll look. I don't know what I'll do. I kind of want to like play a video game, but I gotta set that up. So tentatively, we'll play a video game, probably something that's easy to stream, like Pokemon or something. Until I can figure out like what other stuff I want to work on and coding that I want to stream. So yeah, I look forward to that, I guess. We have reached we've reached the 2 hour mark, so gonna end the stream here if you're paying attention. Thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody has a good Tuesday, and um, see you Thursday if you're around. Take care and see you later.